Welcome to This Time Out with Marcus Ekure. Yes, this morning I'm in a very beautiful community called Bathgate. Yeah, very lovely place. Just quickly, I want to talk about the reason most tasks do not get completed, the reason why most businesses fail today, especially in Africa. Now, we see a situation where people sometimes, or most times rather, assign tasks to people or responsibility without defining such responsibility, as in breaking it into pieces in terms of the various tasks that should be accomplished in that responsibility. Now, there's this devil in every human being that makes him or her wants to take the paths of playfulness, the paths of leisure and pleasure, rather than work. So when you give a task to somebody or responsibility to somebody, it is not enough without breaking such responsibility into task. Let's take a very good example. You employed somebody's staff to do a job for you, maybe as your personal assistant. It is not enough to leave it as a blanket or a blank or sheet, white sheet. You have to go to the extent of breaking this out. In corporate terms, this is referred to as corporate governance. That is breaking responsibilities to pieces, roles, so that it becomes easy for someone to follow and be efficient in delivering on such a responsibility. You employ someone to be your personal assistant. You just expect the person to understand and know what to do. But that's a very big mistake a lot of people make. You have to go to the extent of breaking this down to pieces. As my personal assistant, I'll need you every morning to prepare my diary, set up my engagements, bring to my notice what I'll be doing or I need to achieve for that very day. Then make necessary calls from so time to book appointments that should be honored, and the ones that shouldn't be honored, you reschedule them. You put things like my shopping for today, put things like the servicing of my car, and everything. Just you identify the task, break the task up so that when the person wakes up, the person knows what he or she should be doing or will be doing for this role you are assigning to the person. Rather than leaving this new personal assistant with a blind mindset. So, and if you leave them to define the role for themselves, trust me, there's going to be some sort of a crisis before long, and you're not going to be satisfied or happy with the job. So also define the reporting template. How can you give somebody a job to do without definition? Role specification as a task specification. The role is a very big word. You have to break it into task. And this is the reason, because many people fail in doing this. People end up not meeting expectations. They end up not fulfilling the objectives or goals for which they are being engaged. It is not their fault. And you see a lot of people losing their jobs. So I never knew this guy is so inefficient. I never knew this guy, is so daft. You're calling them all sorts of names. But you failed in your responsibility as the boss, as the employer. You go into so many organizations today, if you are to measure time and contribution, productivity, you find out that a lot of people just go to work and they contribute nothing to the development or objective of organizations. They just play away their time because roles are not well defined. Here, if you go to organizations here in developed countries, since the payment is done in terms of time, measured in terms of time, they pay them in hours, companies ensure that every minute counts. Those who work in the factory, from the moment they get into the factory, their life, their thinking, everything is already defined. They know where to pull off their clothes. They put on their factory clothes, get into the factory. They already assigned. They know the line they are going to be working for that very day. They get into these lines and get into work. They work from maybe 8 a.m. to maybe 12. They go on maybe just a 30 minutes break. And you cannot stay beyond that 30 minutes during break. They have a system that beeps and everybody's reminded that you go back to work. They get into the factory again, work till maybe the next 2 hours, then you go for 15 minutes break and come back. Everything is well defined. So you keep working. There's no idle time. So the crux of all I'm saying is that it is the fault of the boss, of you, who is the leader of the organization or the business, the owner of the business, that workers are not being efficient in carrying out their jobs. And the reason being that tasks are not properly defined, responsibilities are not properly defined. The people you engage, they are confused. You think they can use their minds. Yes, there are a few persons who are trained. They've gone through the ladder of experience, so they know what to do. But even at that, there needs to be some sort of guide to guide them on your expectation, what you want, what you need. If you don't tailor their activities and thinking in line with your expectation, putting relevant task, defining every bit of task, the reporting format and all that, then there's going to be conflict of thoughts. They'll be thinking, Oga will be happy if I do this. I think Oga will be happy if I do this. I think Oga will be happy if I do that. But that may not really be your expectation or your mindset. So it is very important that we get this straight in order for us to have efficiency, and positive outcome in our businesses. I'm still your friend, Dr. Marcus Ikore, saying bye for now.